Greetings, everyone. Today I want to talk a little bit about focus in our therapy coaching sessions on how instead of why. Now, in brief therapy, there has generally been a emphasis on more present-centered and then future-centered intervention with less investigation of etiology. But I often find that a lot of therapists still kind of get stuck in this idea of why something is happening rather than how it's happening. Why kind of looks at a linear cause and effect, and that's not saying that can't be helpful, but I'm more interested in how the problem is being maintained. Now, this is probably due to my influence from the early work of the Mental Research Institute um, in Palo Alto, California, where they looked at how people's problems were maintained due to their attempted solutions. So this is how it kind of works. You have a problem, whatever the problem, whoever's decided there's a problem has probably tried to do something to change that problem. In many cases, what they've tried to change the problem didn't work. And unfortunately, they continue to do more and more and more of that as an attempt to maybe if I do more or less of something, somehow it will magically transform the situation. A lot of times, the attempted solution is what's maintaining the problem. It's a little bit paradoxical, but this is kind of how it often happens. Here's an example. Someone is suffering from depression, so they feel a sense of fatigue. So when you're tired, what do? You attempt to get more energy by getting rest. Unfortunately, trying to get rest, maybe staying in bed too long, which then makes you more tired. So you wake up feeling tired without energy, which causes you to want to rest more. And you now get into this loop of problem, fatigue, attempted solution, rest, but the solution is making the problem worse. Whereas, maybe actually getting exercise, even just 10 minutes of walking around the block can help, adjust this whole problem of fatigue. I see this a lot with couples where one party is doing something, the other responds, trying to solve the problem, but the response only makes it worse, which then makes the other party escalate, and then they're caught in that loop again of a problem, an attempted solution, the problem comes back even stronger attempted solution, and instead of trying to worry about why it got started, maybe looking more at how it is maintained. So a couple of things here. If you really spend the time and notice all the little interactive patterns people have with other people or even their environment or even themselves, then you can start to learn a lot about problem maintenance. Here's an example. Someone has a thought, as Albert Ellis would say, an irrational thought of not being good enough. So what is their response, their attempted solution? Is like maybe I don't, I just try not to think about that. And that may work, or it may actually try to suppress something that keeps coming back stronger. If I don't feel good enough, I end up just sitting down and, just feeling overwhelmed why I can't change my thinking. Well, those are all patterns of interaction with either ourself or our environment, other people. So focusing on adjusting those patterns of interaction, how that problem's maintained, can yield sometimes much greater outcomes in faster time than trying to find out this linear cause of where it all started. Because it doesn't always matter where it all starts, because if that attempted solution is continuing that maintenance of the problem, it's going to continue one way or another. It's gotten to another level of complexity to where that simple cause and effect has now grown so much that it's a little difficult to manage that. So, one way to think about this is someone who has anxiety. If they come and they say, I have this anxious feeling. And if they're very anxious, they've probably tried to deal with that, trying to solve that. So anytime we get something that's uncomfortable, we either we move away from it or try to move towards something more pleasurable. So if you're dealing with anxiety, you have this bodily sensation that maybe you label a certain way as anxiety or panic, and then you start to maybe try to avoid that or try to do things to change that. But then, unfortunately, it often gets in the way of actually that emotion moving through, and it gets caught in this problem maintenance cycle, or as MRI said, these vicious cycles and circles of attempted solution and problem. So an example would be someone who has a lot of anxiety. They become consumed by it, try to force it down, try to do deep breathing, all of that, but they're still battling against that initial problem with the attempted solution that's not working. So some things that I've done is to have the person take a notebook with them for 2 weeks. And every time they have that anxious feeling, they're to write down everything about it. Instead of trying to stop it and to force it away or that kind of thing, to just welcome it in metaphorically and to write down, what time is it? What else is going on? What did I eat right before the sensation started? Who's the last person I talked to? What's the temperature? So I have this whole list of questions that they have to answer. Now, two things are happening. Number one, they are slightly, in a good way, disassociating from their anxiety. And number two, we're changing that attempted solution. So we're no longer trying to change the problem with the same way that they've been doing it, but we've kind of interrupted that attempt at solution, which then changes the interaction of them and their environment and with themselves. Now, what I usually tell them, now I need this information in order to do the therapy work. So it's crucial that the next 2 weeks you do this every time. So often when they come back, they tell me that their anxiety has been magically cut in half by at least 50%, and all that's happened is that we've kind of blocked those attempted solutions that are no longer working and altered the way that they relate to their problem. So in that case of the anxiety, they're focusing on something other than the anxiety, or they're noticing things about the anxiety that they hadn't noticed previously. So just going back to this whole idea that if we focus on how people do their problems rather than why people do their problems, many times we can come up with some pretty simple but effective interventions to disrupt that problem attempted solution cycle and vicious circle that plagues so many of us. It's a bit paradoxical, but I think you'll find that the more you play with it, the more you may come up with some interesting ideas that doesn't require anyone to be the bad guy. It's not due to, how you were raised. It's not due to, your behavior. It's not due to, the system of society and culture. It's really just that circle. And if you can interrupt that, it gives people more access to the resources that they need to create more flexibility in their life. So play with a little bit. Love to have you join me on these YouTube videos, so feel free to subscribe, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.